Okay, this is a message, WhatsApp message I received, and I want to respond to the message. Now it says, "Good morning, the monks, sir, from Lion Community. How are your lions? Please, my Peugeot 460 started showing engine coolant temperature high and temperature gauge on the dashboard refused to deflect, but the Lion is not overheating. I've changed the temperature sensor, but the problem persists. Please, what can I do, sir?" Then I now asked him, "What's the engine model?" He responded with EW10. I believe he meant EW10G4. So I know in one of my last videos, I talked about the basic information I need when you are making such requests, or you want to complain or something about your car issue, and you are asking for a solution or an advice. Please, I need at least 3 things or more than 3 things, depending. For example, you state your PSA or your Peugeot vehicle model. By vehicle model, I mean, is it Peugeot 406 or Peugeot 407 or 508? The next one is, I need your engine model. If you don't know your engine model, you are supposed to know it. Find out. I need your engine model. So I don't do abracadabra. I don't do trial and error. I don't do guesswork. I like specificity. If you are telling me about your car, I need to know exactly the system of your vehicle, so I'll know what to advise. They differ from one project to the other. Then I also need to know the transmission type. By transmission type, I mean, is it automatic or is it manual? So that depending on the issue you complained of, your car is giving, I will know if it's manual. I will know if it's automatic gearbox related or is an engine problem. It's called only an engine problem. It has nothing to do with the automatic transmission. I need to understand the system. Then the fourth one is the production year. I need to understand or to know the production year of that car, when that car was produced. Because from the production year, I will know, for example, the wiring system, which differ from for example, in Peugeot 406, the wiring system in Peugeot 406 produced in 2000, in the year 2000, is different from the one produced in year 2002 and 2003. Yes, they are all G9, but the wiring systems are different. So I need to know all those things, so I don't give you wrong information. If you don't know any of these things, just when you are posting it, include your VIN. Just put in your VIN or your chassis number. Just put your chassis number, so I'll look it up, understand before I go ahead with the advice. And like I said in that video, you really need to start paying attention to your vehicle. I don't know why people just all you know is Peugeot 406 or Peugeot 407. So also know more detail about your car, the engine model, specific. It will help you, not even me. It's for you, it will help you. So if you read up something and they are talking about your engine, you will know exactly this is what your car is being discussed, or your transmission is being discussed, or your wiring system is being discussed. Rather than just relying on whatever mechanic tells you. Mechanics who mostly may not even understand any of these things I'm talking about, and then to go and advise you to put something that will wreck your vehicle. Anyway, you said your Peugeot 406 is showing engine coolant temperature high. And the temperature gauge on the dashboard. I want to believe what you meant was the temperature gauge on the instrument panel, or which can also be called instrument cluster, is refusing to drop. So in other words, you are saying the temperature gauge, is it that it's reading too high? Deflect. I don't understand what you mean by deflect. Is it that the temperature is reading at the maximum, which is it 140 or thereabout? Is it showing the maximum temperature, or is it that it's not even moving at all? It just stays permanently low. While your multifunction display is showing engine temperature too high. Anyway, for the Peugeot 406 with EW10J4 engine, which is say that's what you have in the vehicle, only one sensor controls the temperature gauge, the coolant temperature gauge on your instrument panel, and that sensor also feed the engine ECU the temperature, the coolant temperature of the engine, which the engine ECU uses to control the fuel consumption, or more like tune the consumption. So when, in fact, that information you are getting, engine coolant temperature too high, is most likely coming from the engine ECU. Engine ECU is what is reporting that fault. So the reason why I actually asked you which engine model was to know which engine, because from the engine I will understand the system. For example, Peugeot 406 D9, both D9 and D8 with SU10J4R engine have about 3 coolant temperature sensors, which we also call CTS. So it has 3 CTS. So one of them controls the temperature gauge, the second one controls the fan, the cooling fan in front of the radiator, while the third one sends information to your engine ECU of your coolant temperature. So you now understand why I need to know. So in your case, it's only one sensor that does all the work. So at least it narrows it down to that sensor. However, you said you changed the sensor, the CTS already, and the fault is still there. Now, when it comes to Nigerian used cars or Peugeot vehicles that are being used in Nigeria, I don't always rely on theory when I'm giving advice or when you are diagnosing. To be honest, when it comes to vehicle, Peugeot cars used on Nigeria or driven on Nigeria roads, or being diagnosed and fixed in Nigeria, my advice is it will pay you more to have it properly diagnosed rather than relying only on information you get online. Because the only thing I can tell you online is the theoretical parts based on my understanding of the system. Yes, if you get this kind of symptom on your instrument panel, that your temperature or not the instrument panel, the multifunction display in Peugeot 406, if you get this kind of warning, in theory it's supposed to be either your CTS, which is the coolant temperature sensor on EW10J4, either the CTS is bad or the connector, the wiring plug, the plug that goes onto that CTS is bad, broken, or disconnected. It has to be just any of these that I mentioned. But when it comes to Nigeria, most times these two things I mentioned may be in good condition. Only for you to now, when you are doing the diagnosis, to realize that there is a bypass somewhere or there is a wrong connection somewhere that is affecting the signal that goes from that sensor to the engine ECU, and it's now affecting or interrupting the flow of the information to the engine ECU, or it's affecting the engine ECU itself, that damaging it in the process. So it doesn't. I can tell you, okay, what is supposed to cause it is CTS or this plug on the CTS, but it may not solve your problem. You may end up finding that the problem is elsewhere completely, where you don't even expect. But someone who understands the system, when he sees the vehicle from there, he will now you'll be ruling out things until it gets to the culprit. So I can't really say this or this could be the culprit. But like I said, in theory, what is supposed to cause this kind of symptom is the CTS, the coolant temperature sensor. Coolant temperature sensor, which in your case is only one on your engine. Or the connector on that sensor, it has two wires. The coolant temperature sensor has a green plastic part. That's the upper part of the sensor. It's plastic green in color. And also the plug that goes to it is also green, and it has two wires. So as it is now, I wouldn't know if that plug is still in good condition. Also, has anybody changed that plug before? Because that's one thing I observe. When that plug breaks or is about to break, most mechanics, they will go and change it and then connect it wrongly. Like I said, it has two wires. They may end up switching the other one to the pin 1, the wire on pin 1, they will switch it to pin 2 and take the one on pin 2 to pin 1. Or it could be that sometimes when it breaks, instead of them to change the plug, they will go and use sellotape and hold it and push it in, expecting it to still hold. That will not solve the problem, because as long as it's not firmly attached on that sensor, it will not have full contact. Or most times when they do it, the two pins, because the pin is actually inside. The pin that goes onto the sensor is covered with that plastic on the plug. So because there's something that separates those, I won't call it pin, but just use the pin that separate those two pins. So that thing, if it's not there, then the two pins will start touching each other. So these are the things. I can't really tell you what will be the cause, but I know in theory, these are the two things that are supposed to cause that problem. Either is the sensor itself or the connection to the sensor. Now, there's another thing that can also cause it, and that is air pocket. Or let me just use a different, a basic word, air in the system. If you did some work on the radiator in the past, or when you started observing this issue, did they bleed the cooling system properly? Because if air is in that cooling system, my observation is if there is a thermostat there, what will happen is the air, after a while, to go and settle or stay stuck behind the thermostat, and the sensor is around that thermostat. So once that air gets to that place, the water will no longer touch that sensor. Even if it does, it will just be just a little bit. Most times they won't even touch it anymore. So it will be air that will surround the sensor, the part that goes into the thermostat housing. So it will no longer sense anything, and it will throw. It will look as if the sensor is not connected. It will throw that fault. So you need to also check if there is air in that cooling system, especially in the thermostat housing. Was it bled? How did you do the bleeding? Most people, like I said in most of my videos, Peugeot says if you are bleeding a Peugeot engine cooling system, it must be done when the engine is cold. But I don't know, some mechanics, like, they don't even know anything about Peugeot cooling systems. They'll just bleed it like they bleed every other brand of vehicle. Don't bleed a Peugeot cooling system when it's hot. You are wasting your time. It will be very difficult to get all the air out. Even if it's an emergency and you do that, you see, I need to do it later on when the engine is cold. If you really want all the air to go out, do it when it's cold. So if they did it when the engine was hot, it's probably there's still air in the system. The other thing is, most times they don't even bleed all the places they are supposed to bleed. In Peugeot 406 with EW10 J4 engine, it has 3 bleed points. One is that hose that goes into the heater matrix. The second bleed point is on the thermostat housing, while the third one is on the radiator. So these three things need to be observed. You need to bleed from those 3 points. And don't bleed with the engine running. Yeah, some people can do that, but the right way of bleeding Peugeot, especially that Peugeot 406, the engine must be off. I don't know if I've done a video on how to bleed Peugeot cooling systems, but it's very easy. The engine must be off. You remove all those bleed point or bleed valve until water start flowing, or water or coolant start flowing, effortlessly without any bubbles from those holes. Then you close them. Measure the coolant level on the expansion tank or the coolant tank. Measure it and close it. That's all, you are done. But most people don't know how to bleed, so you also need to consider that. Was it properly bled? There could be other things. Like I say, when it comes to cars, Peugeot cars used in Nigeria, it's not just about what is expected to be the culprit. You have to go beyond that, because right now I don't know the state of your wires on your car. Has it been abused? Because yes, if you abuse, they can send all kinds of signal to the ECU, and the ECU will start responding the way it's doing now. Or it could be that there's a connection somewhere that's along that cooling system. That's the communication between the CTS and the engine ECU. If there's any connection there that is not proper or that has been tampered, it's not affecting the engine ECU. There's a part of the engine ECU that works with that sensor. So if it's bad, once it affects it and it burns it inside the ECU, it means even if you put everything back in order, the engine ECU will no longer work with that sensor. And which, of course, is the engine ECU that controls the cooling fan in front of the radiator. So in that case, your fan will continuously run on very high speed, as long as it's factory connected. As it is now, I don't know the state of your cooling fan connection. Is it still running factory as designed? Is it like, what I mean is it still automatically controlled? Or has it been the connection to the fan, has it been bypassed and connected direct, and so that as soon as you switch on ignition, the fan will start spinning? Or once you start the vehicle, it starts spinning constantly until you switch off the car? So all these things, that's why I say I wouldn't know. When it comes to Nigerian used car, I find out that about more than 50, what am I even talking about 70 or 80% of Peugeot cars you see on Nigerian road, their cooling fans have been bypassed, messed up, butchered. So you won't even know all these things I'm saying. I don't know the state of your car. That's the truth of the matter. So you have to look at all these things. So I don't know. I would have mentioned data wire under the driver's carpet, but that one, if it will happen, it's supposed to affect every other what's it called, on the instrument panel. But let's assume maybe it's only that particular one that is causing it. But I don't think that one goes to the engine ECU, sends signal to the engine ECU through that data one. However, I wouldn't rule it out. So yet you have to check it. After you check every other one on the engine bay, confirm that the plug on the sensor is okay. Or even the sensor you change, is it a original new one, or a used one that you are sure that is okay, that was working in another vehicle? This type of thing, if you want to do it, all you need is borrow from a car that you know that its own is working well. Or if you are sure that it's working, or you buy original new one, don't go and buy fake China. Buy original new one, at least you rule it out. Then the plug that goes to the socket, the sensor, is it properly connected? Then the wires, engine wires, is there any bushing there? Is the wire touching somewhere on the part of it? These are things you have to check. Maybe, like I say, it has 2 wires on that plug that goes to the CTS, coolant temperature sensor. I hope none of those 2 wires is touching somewhere on the body of the engine. or it's not, it's touching another wire, or the two wires are not touching each other. So I hope you need to fix this, try and rule out this thing, properly diagnose, because like I said, those two wires fix the engine ECU, the coolant temperature sensor. So if you continue to leave it like this, it may end up damaging that ECU if the wire is touching somewhere, or if it's one connection that is causing it. So you may end up replacing that ECU, which should not be fun considering the cost. Well, but at least you now know the three basic ones first to check. The CTS, which is the coolant temperature sensor itself, the plug on the CTS, the two wiring plug on the CTS, and then air. These are the three basic things you need to first check. Bleed the system very well, make sure there is no air trapped. Then if the issue continues, then you can now start checking other side parts. I can't remember right now. Like I say, it all depends. I mean, for example, if the car is before me, if I open the engine bonnet, I may not even need to check these three things based on what I see. If I see there's a mess on the engine wiring harness, why bother checking the CTS when the culprit is already there staring at me? So it all depends on what you know, especially so a technician, when he's working, is what he sees physically that determines where to check first, not what the theory or the book says. And also make sure that the connector on the CTS is the right one. That's the plug on that sensor is the right one. In case somebody use a wrong a plug meant for another sensor to go and connect on the CTS, and use the CTS one or something else. Though on the EW10J4, I don't think the only sensor that might enter there is that is close around that side. The only plug that is close around the CTS or thermostat housing is which one? The engine speed sensor plug. I don't think there's any other one. And the engine speed sensor plug, if you go and connect it on that one, the car will not even start. So anyway, that's all I have to say.